it's kind of it's not a zero-sum game. China, India, Indonesia grow rapidly, more demand for US exports. So I think that's a good thing. But I think if you were had a cynical view of the world and said, that countries, when they become economically dominant, also, exercise power, that's when, things start getting a bit murky. In the history of humanity, dominant powers have always used powers. Some, like the US, have used it in a very, relatively benign fashion, bequeathing to the world a kind of, if you think about what's happening in this world, for example, the fact that we all talk about, rising prosperity around the world, I think it's in large part a tribute to what the US did after 1945 to create a really open economic and trade system. Now, we want that system to continue because everyone has gained from that system. But, there's a darker view of the world where you think that, well, if too much power gets, say, concentrated in Chinese hands, will this system continue or not? I'm not saying it won't continue. I think there are good reasons to believe that, the China also has a stake in continuing the system, but we can't be sure. If you think about the whole Chinese exchange rate discussion, I think it's problematic for the world and for US exports that China has this, what clearly is a huge subsidy to its exporters. So, in a world where, this is happening and the US perhaps now doesn't have the levers that it used to in terms of trying to get countries to change their policies, it's a problem. And so I think it's in that bigger geostrategic sense, geopolitical sense, that one cannot be absolutely sanguine about this shift of power towards, say, China. I mean, I don't think this power is getting dispersed as yet, but getting concentrated, at least for the next 20 years, in the hands of China. I think that's something that we need to think harder about. It's not a bad thing. It has lots of good aspects, but we can't be sure.
Do you want to add anything? No. Okay. Another question. I'm looking from this side of the room. Right here at the front, right here. We have here, yes, and then we'll come here.
Hi, thank you very much for being here. My name is Nicole Eichhoff. I'm from the DC Women's Business Center, and I wanted to ask a question on the ground, actually, and on the ground here in DC very specifically. We are noticing, actually, in the last day today, that there are a lot of barriers to entry for truly small businesses, what was called yesterday a tiny business, a $4 million business. How do we get those businesses to grow enough so that